Picture this scenario because I guarantee we have all been there at some point, and for many of you, this might have been your reality just yesterday. You were standing in the checkout line at the grocery store or maybe the pharmacy, and you've got about 6 people behind you. The cashier scans the last item. Maybe it's something necessary like diapers or just something you wanted like a nice steak, and tells you the total. It's $142.50. You pull out your card, you slide it into the chip reader, and for those 3 to 5 seconds while the machine says processing, your heart physically stops beating. You are doing mental gymnastics, frantically trying to remember if that auto draft for the electric bill hit yesterday or if it's scheduled for tomorrow, and you genuinely do not know if the word approved or declined is going to pop up on that screen. That specific tightness in your chest, that low-grade cortisol spike that hits you every single time you have to spend money, is the defining feeling of financial fragility. And sadly, it is the default state for the vast majority of people. But here is the thing. There comes a point where that feeling vanishes, not because you won the lottery, but because your behavior shifted in a way you didn't even notice at first. My name is Bobby, and I spend way too much time thinking about money psychology and the invisible scripts that keep people broke. If you're someone who feels like you are making decent money, but you are still constantly stressed about the timing of your bills, make sure to hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Look, most people think that financial freedom is this singular explosive moment where you sell a business for $10 million, or you finally pay off the mortgage and pop a bottle of champagne. The reality is much quieter, much more boring, and honestly, much harder to spot if you don't know what you are looking for. Financial freedom isn't a destination you arrive at. It is a series of behavioral signals that prove your relationship with money has fundamentally changed from a chaotic dependency to a controlled system. Today, we are going to break down the 5 specific behaviors that signal you are actually much closer to freedom than you think, and I want you to count how many of these you currently have. Let's get right into the first behavior, and this is where most people get it wrong because they are looking at the wrong numbers. Behavior number 1 is what I call the payday amnesia, or the total decoupling of spending from earning. Here is what most people don't realize about being broke. It isn't always about how much money you earn. It is about the velocity of that money leaving your account. According to a recent report by Lending Club, over 60% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, and that includes a shocking percentage of people earning over 6 figures. The behavior of the average person is strictly cyclical. Money comes in on Friday, bills go out on Monday, and by Wednesday, they are holding their breath until the next Friday. Their spending is inextricably linked to the arrival of new funds. If the payroll department at their job had a glitch and payment was delayed by 3 days, their entire life would implode. They are surfing on the edge of a cliff. Now, you know you are close to financial freedom when you honestly, genuinely do not know what day you get paid. You might be thinking, Bobby, how could I not know when I get paid? I need that money. And that is exactly the point. When you reach a certain level of financial maturity, you have built what we call a capital float. Let's do some quick math to show you exactly how this works, because the numbers tell the real story. Let's say your monthly survival number, rent, food, insurance, is $4,000. The average person keeps maybe $500 as a buffer in their checking account. That means 1 transmission repair, 1 unexpected medical copay, and they are in the red. But the person approaching financial freedom operates differently. They keep a float of 1 to 2 months of expenses, let's say $8,000, sitting in their checking account at all times, treating that $8,000 as if it is zero. Here is where the psychology gets really interesting. When you have that float, the immediate arrival of a paycheck becomes irrelevant to your ability to buy groceries today. You are no longer timing your gas tank fill-up with your direct deposit. This is a massive psychological shift known as escaping the scarcity tunnel. Sendil Mullainathan and Eldar Shafir wrote a brilliant book called Scarcity, where they explain that when you are resource constrained, your brain literally loses cognitive bandwidth, about 13 IQ points worth, because you are constantly processing the trade-offs of every single dollar. When you exhibit payday amnesia, it means you have reclaimed that IQ. You aren't checking your bank app in the grocery line because the math has already been done months ago. You have decoupled the act of earning from the act of spending. If you find yourself needing to check a calendar to remember if you get paid on the 15th or the 30th, congratulations. That indifference is the first major signal that the chains are breaking. This brings us directly to behavior number 2, which is the shift from, can I afford the monthly payment, to, is this asset worth the total cost? This is the single biggest trap in the American financial system, and frankly, it is designed specifically to keep you poor. When you walk into a car dealership, and I hate to pick on car dealerships, but they are the absolute masters of this dark art. The very first question the salesperson asks is never, what is your budget for the car? It is always, what payment are you looking to stay under? That question is a weapon. It is designed to manipulate a cognitive bias called hyperbolic discounting, where your brain values the immediate relief of a low monthly number more than the long-term pain of excessive interest. If you are still answering that question, you are playing their game, not yours. The behavior that signals you are approaching financial freedom is when that question actually insults your intelligence because you have stopped doing payment math and started doing net worth math. Let's look at the math because the numbers are frankly terrifying when you break them down. Let's say you want to buy a truck listed at $40,000. If you are a monthly payment thinker, the dealer says, great news, we can get you into this for just $650 a month. That sounds manageable, right? But what they don't emphasize is that to get that number, they stretch the loan term to 84 months, that is 7 years, at an interest rate of 8%. If you do the actual math, which most people refuse to do, you are paying over $12,000 just in interest. You are effectively paying $52,000 for a liability that will be worth $15,000 by the time you pay it off. That is wealth destruction on an industrial scale. However, when you are close to financial freedom, your behavior flips. You look at the $40,000 price tag and you ask yourself, is this metal box worth $40,000 of my hard-earned capital? You don't care about the monthly breakdown because you are either paying cash or you are financing it strategically while fully understanding the cost of capital. You stop looking at money as a stream of payments to be managed and start viewing it as a finite resource to be deployed. If you find yourself asking, how much is the total interest rather than what's the minimum due, you have graduated from consumer to capitalist. Now, moving on to behavior number 3, and this is where it gets really interesting because this is about the Vimes theory of economics. Terry Pratchett famously wrote that the reason the rich were so rich was because they managed to spend less money. Take boots, for example. A really good pair of leather boots costs $200, but an affordable pair costs $50. A poor person can't afford the $200, so they buy the $50 pair. But those cheap boots fall apart after one season, so they buy another $50 pair the next year and another the year after that. Over 10 years, the poor person spends $500 on boots and still has wet feet, while the rich person spent $200 once and still has the same pair. Behavior number 3 is the transition from reactive repairs to proactive quality. When you are financially struggling, you are constantly in patch mode. You buy the cheapest tires, you skip the dental cleaning, you ignore that rattle in the engine because you don't have the cash to fix it today. But here's the thing, it is incredibly expensive to be poor. Ignoring a $150 cavity filling today turns into a $2,000 root canal and crown 2 years later. Ignoring a $50 oil change turns into a $4,000 engine rebuild. The signal that you are approaching financial freedom is when you start prepaying for problems before they happen. You buy the high-quality mattress because you know it saves you money on chiropractic bills later. You pay for the comprehensive insurance. You buy the bulk items that cost more upfront but save 40% per unit. Now you might be thinking, Bobby, I get the logic, but I literally don't have the $200 for the boots. And I hear you. That is the trap. But the behavior shift I want you to notice is the moment you have even a little bit of margin, what do you do with it? Do you upgrade your lifestyle, or do you upgrade your efficiency? The person heading toward freedom uses their first bit of surplus cash to buy their way out of future costs. They stop bleeding money on low-quality, disposable goods. It is a psychological shift from short-term survival. What is the cheapest way to solve this problem right now? To long-term optimization. What is the most cost-effective way to solve this problem forever? If you recently spent more money on something specifically because it would last longer, that is a massive victory. You are no longer renting your lifestyle from the junkyard, You are buying equity in your own peace of mind. We are moving into the deeper psychology now with behavior number 4. You start trading money to buy time, instead of trading time to save money. This is the most difficult transition for people who grew up without money to make, because we are conditioned to believe that doing everything ourselves is a virtue. We are taught that hiring a mover is lazy, or that paying for a direct flight instead of the one with 2 layovers is wasteful. But here is what most people don't realize. Time is the only non-renewable asset you own. When you are financially fragile, you are forced to be a time seller. You stand in line for 45 minutes to save $3 on gas. You spend your entire Saturday changing your own oil to save $40. You are essentially telling the market that your life is worth less than minimum wage. But as you approach financial freedom, a switch flips in your brain. You start calculating your personal hourly rate. Let's apply some logic here. If your goal is to make $100,000 a year, your time is worth roughly $50 an hour. If you spend 4 hours of your weekend painting a bedroom to save the $150 it would cost to hire a neighborhood kid or a handyman, you haven't saved money. You have actually lost $50 in opportunity cost, not to mention the energy drain that prevents you from resting or working on high-leverage skills. The person close to financial freedom realizes that saving money is often expensive in terms of time. You stop asking, "How much does this cost?" and start asking, "How many hours of my life does this buy me back?" You pay the $15 delivery fee for groceries, not because you are lazy, but because that hour you saved is worth more than $15 to you. Whether you use it to build a side business, invest in your health, or just actually be present with your kids. When you start feeling relieved rather than guilty about paying for convenience, you have crossed a massive psychological threshold. You are prioritizing the asset that actually runs out. Finally, we arrive at behavior number 5, and this is the most counterintuitive one of all. You stop talking about money. This is where it gets really interesting. In our culture, specifically on social media, the appearance of wealth is loud. It is flashy cars, unboxing videos, and screenshots of crypto gains. But usually, that noise is a desperate signal for validation. It is what we call status signaling, and it is often a mask for deep insecurity and high debt. People who are actually close to financial freedom tend to go dark. They become incredibly boring to the outside observer. This is the phenomenon of stealth wealth. When you are genuinely winning with money, the urge to impress strangers vanishes because you no longer need their validation to feel secure. You have the receipts in your bank account. You don't need them on your Instagram feed. Think about the last dinner party or gathering you went to. There is always that one guy talking loudly about his killer stock picks or his new lease. And then there is someone else, usually sitting quietly, listening, maybe driving a 5-year-old Toyota. Statistically speaking, the quiet person is the one with the 7-figure net worth. Why? Because they understand the Diderot effect, the social pressure that dictates that buying one new luxury item forces you to upgrade your entire life to match it. The person approaching freedom rejects this game entirely. They build in silence. If you find that you have a significant amount of money saved or invested, and literally nobody outside of your spouse knows about it, not your parents, not your friends, and definitely not Facebook, that is the ultimate sign of maturity. You have realized that money is a tool for freedom, not a microphone for your ego. So, let's bring this full circle. If you are watching this and you recognized yourself in the grocery store anxiety I described at the beginning, I want you to know that the path out isn't magic. It is simply the accumulation of these boring, invisible behaviors. Financial freedom isn't about the yacht or the private jet. It is about the Tuesday morning when your car breaks down and your only reaction is, "That's annoying," rather than, "How am I going to survive this?" It is the ability to walk away from a toxic job because you have a year of expenses in the bank. It is the quiet confidence of knowing that no matter what the economy does, you are going to be okay. If you are currently exhibiting even one or two of these behaviors, if you've stopped looking at payday dates, or you're buying quality boots, or you're keeping your wins to yourself, you are winning. You are closer than you think. Don't let the flashy influencers convince you that you're failing just because you aren't a millionaire by 25. The game is long, and you are playing it the right way. Now, if you want to speed up this process, you need to understand the mechanics of where to actually put that capital once you have saved it. I have broken down exactly how to structure your first $10,000 in savings in this video right here. Points to screen. It walks you through the exact accounts I use to maximize that capital float we talked about. Click that, and I'll see you over there. Thanks for watching, and keep building.